Good morning, everyone. In the previous class, we were discussing about the microcontroller and microprocessor differences, and then we have discussed the risk and design the ARM design philosophy. What is that risk and what is this ARM design philosophy that we have discussed about the instructions that is supported in the risk and about the pipelines and the registers, how many registers have been supported and which are the instructions uh, like load and store instructions, how it is going to transfer the data between the register bank and the external memory, and that we discussed in the risk. Later on, either exactly the risk design they have completely used it in the ARM, or whether they have done some changes. What are those changes that we have discussed? Or not all the instructions that is going to execute in the single instruction itself. And then there is a hardware called inline barrel shifter that hardware is going to pre-process the register input registers, and that also will help in the performance. And one more is there is a 16-bit instruction set also, it is been supported. Thumb 16-bit instruction set. Two minutes. Now whether it is audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, we are discussing about the instruction set, that is inline barrier, which is a separate hardware that also pre-process the registers that will helpful for improving the performance. And one more 16-bit instruction, even we can write. Always we used to write in the ARM 32-bit instruction set. Means the size of that instruction, if you check, it is 32-bit. But there is a support for 16-bit also. That is one more change. And also conditional executions are there. Based on some condition, some part of the code you can execute, or else you can skip it. That flexibility is there. These are all the changes which is there, which is done in the ARM compared to the RISC. The next part is, as we discuss about the embedded system, because the ARM processor, where exactly it is going to be, the ARM, it will be inside the inside any embedded system. And what is an embedded system? It is a system which consists of both hardware and software, which performs some task. Some dedicated task is there. For that reason, we have designed this one embedded system, like washing machine, micro oven, mobile phones, or any other. These devices, what are all the hardware it contains? That we have to discuss. That is called this topic, embedded system hardware. And after that, we'll discuss embedded system software, what all the software it contains. See, if you want to see the inner view of any embedded system, it contains this much. See, there is an inside a block, there is an ARM processor. In this block diagram, a big box with a dark background, ARM processor.
That is what the processor which is going to process the all the the functionalities it is going to process, or which controls the embedded devices. The different versions of the ARM processor also available based on the desired operating characteristics. What this includes is these components will also includes the memory management and also the caches includes. See, the next part other than the ARM processor is the light background, which are called as controllers. Light dark background compared to the ARM, which are called controllers. Interrupt controller, memory controller, uh, and AHB arbiter, all those things. They are all the controller. What these will do inside an embedded system in that is it is going to coordinate. Controller means coordinate. It will get something from one side, give it to the another. That is the coordination thing that will be done by the controllers. This memory controller will get the data from the memory RAM, and it is going to give it to the ARM processor, like that. Interrupt controller, whenever the interrupt is being raised, that in order to set the proper separate flags, that will be done by the interrupt controller. And to tell about the which device has raised the interrupt, that information should be given to the ARM processor, that will be done by the interrupt controller. Finally, it coordinates the functional blocks of the system. Mainly two controllers what we see is memory controller and interrupt controller. What all the other things will be there other than these two hardware, ARM processor and controllers? The next thing is peripherals. Peripherals is nothing but the external devices that we are going to connect to the chip. Plug and play. You connect like the USB with the keyboard, USB keyboard or USB mouse or any other the joystick. What we connect like pen drives, like that. You know what we connect to the that microcontroller, that we call it as a peripherals. It provides the input output capability external to the chip. These peripherals, see, there are so many peripherals are there. Real time clock is there, serial UART, Ethernet, counters. So many peripherals are there. It is based on the applications. The peripherals is going to be connected. In not all the microcontrollers, clock will be there. Ethernet slot will be there. It is based on the applications we design the embedded system. Therefore, the peripherals will decide the uniqueness of the embedded devices. In order to connect all these things, what is required? Bus, cable. The bus is required. The dark line, what you see, single lines, that is called as a bus. That is going to use it for communication for the different parts of the devices. Are you getting the things? Are you getting the things? Any doubts in this? ARM processor, controllers, peripherals, and bus. Any doubts? No?
No, sir.
Very good. Question is, we'll discuss about the hardware afterwards. First, we'll see what is this bus is all about. See, this dark line, how it is going to communicate? That is the first question. What is the technology which is there in the ARM? The ARM bus technology. See, here we are discussing about the microcontroller. First, we have to know about the microprocessor. X8086 microprocessor, they used to use the bus called PCI bus. In the previous syllabus, so many experiments in the lab, you are used to use PCI buses, peripheral component interconnect bus. In the microprocessor, we used to use those PCI buses, microprocessor. and they are called as external or half chip. The type of technology is external or half chip. What is the meaning of that is that bus you are actually going to see outside. It is outside the chip, and you have to connect it manually from one device, one end to the other end. From one end is the motherboard on the PC, and all those slots will be available, and one more end will be to the processor. That is external. That is called, it is called off chip. It is, that is in the microprocessor. In the microcontroller, the bus, the technology what they use is on chip. If you see the bus, you are not going to, it is not visible. It is inside, they have already connected when they manufacture it. It is internal to the chip. What they are going to give is some slot where you can directly connect the peripheral devices. From that device to the processor, internally it is connected. That is why it is called as on-chip bus. Microprocessor. In the microprocessor, bus technology is PCI bus technology, which is called as external or half chip. But in the microcontroller, it is called as on chip because it is internally connected. You cannot see from the normal eyes, you cannot see the bus. What are the different classes are there in the devices that is going to be attached to the bus? The two different classes are, one is bus master and another one is bus slave. Which is called as a bus master is, it is always the ARM processor which is called as a bus master. Why it is called as a bus master is, that device, it is capable of initiating the data transfer with another device. What about this bus slave? The bus slave is peripherals, what we connect, the timer, the clocks, or any other motors, what we connect, that is which is called as a peripherals. That is called as a bus slave. What they are going to do, what is the capacity of that? They are capable of responding to the transfer request from the bus master. These are the two types, bus master and bus slaves. If you talk about the architecture about the bus, the architecture is, what about the bus width? The bus width is, it can be 16-bit, 32-bit, or 64-bit. It can be 16-bit, 32-bit, or 64-bit. The meaning of that is, at a time you can send 16 bits. At a time you can receive 32 bits. At a time you can send 64 bits. That is the meaning, bus width. It is based on the manufacturer, how much they are going to choose. And based on that itself, the performance is going to decide. One is that electrical characteristics and the bus width. One more is protocol. How it is going to communicate? What are the rules to communicate between the processor and the peripherals? How they communicate? What information, whether they have to send the first address, after that whether they have to send data, what should be the format of the address and the data, how to raise the interrupt, everything that is called as a protocol. These things should it should be kept in the mind when they design the bus. That is why we say two architectures. One is in the electrical characteristics, another one is the protocol. These are the two things that we have to think when they manufacture the ARM bus. How it should communicate between a processor and peripherals, what should be the size of the bus width. Because how it matters is bus width. If it is 16-bit, it takes more time. At the same time, if the bus width is 64-bit, with the less time you can send the data between the processor and peripherals. In that, what is the protocol they are going to follow? Protocol is nothing but rules, how they communicate. It is a communication between the processor and the peripherals. What is the rules? Which is the technology they are going to use? That is the next topic. In the 1996, they have come up with the architecture called AMBA, which is Advanced Microcontroller Bus Architecture. Very old, 1996. This architecture they have used for ARM processor itself. It is designed for ARM itself, microcontroller. Always when they introduce, there will be some flaws. The performance will be less. That is why they are going to come up with so many versions. When they introduce this AMBA, the Advanced Microcontroller Bus Architecture, the next version, what they have released is ARM System Bus. After that, they have come up with ARM Peripheral Bus. Later, they have introduced ARM High Performance Bus. Why they have upgraded is because of some limitations in the previous bus. Because everywhere why we are going to advance is any technology, it is completely based on the performance. The very good performance how in which they have observed is ARM High Performance Bus, AHB. In that they have got the high performance. That is the bus technology they have used later on. How it is special is this ARM High Performance Bus is each peripherals which is going to connect, it is not going to worry about the architecture which is being followed. As and when you connect the peripherals, directly you can start using it. It is just like a plug and play interface for the hardware. Because of this speciality, no need to change the interface in the background. The processor, even if there is a different processor architecture, since you have used this bus protocol, which one? ARM High Performance Bus Protocol, since you have used this, even if there is a different processor architecture, it is going to work. Any peripherals, if you connect, it is going to work. Because of this plug and play interface for the hardware developers, it improves the availability and time to market. It has become available in the market and it is become so famous. This one, which one? This protocol, ARM High Performance Bus. What is the special in this is there is a higher data throughput compared to the previous ARM system bus. AHB and ASB. ASB is ARM system bus. AHB is ARM High Performance Bus. This AHB provides higher data throughput compared to the previous ASB. Why? Because ASB was bidirectional bus design. In both the ways you can send. But in AHB, it was centralized multiplexed bus scheme. Because of this, you can run the AHB at the higher clock speed. And also it supports the width of 64 and 128 bits. See, at a say one stretch, you can send 128 bits means you can understood it is a data you can send is more. The meaning higher data throughput, finally. Finally, it is a higher data throughput. Even in this AHB also, they have come up with two versions, multi-layer AHB and AHB Lite. What change in that is in the AHB Lite, it is just limited to the single bus masters. Inside that, there will be a single bus master. But in the multi-layer AHB, multiple bus masters are there and also they are all active. Means if there are multiple bus master, what is the advantage? All the bus masters can initiate the data transfer with the other devices. Finally, you will have a high performance. If there is single bus master, only a single device can initiate a data transfer. I'm talking about inside the bus, how it is going to communicate, protocol. I repeat once again, which was the technology they have introduced? Advanced microcontroller bus architecture they have introduced in the 1996. In order to improve, they have come up with a new bus technology called ARM System Bus, ASB. After that, ARM peripheral bus. Finally, they have stopped after they design ARM high performance bus. How it is become so famous, or it is how it is going to attract the market, is because of the plug and play interface. Even though if there is a different processor architecture, there is no need to design and redesign an interface. That is why all the peripherals directly can connect and it is use it. That is why it becomes so it is become so famous. And this EHB provides the higher data throughput because of centralized multiplexed bus scheme, and it supports 64 to 128 bits. It runs at very high clock speed. It contains it also supports multiple bus masters or single bus master. There are two types in that EHB: multi-layer EHB and EHB Lite. EHB, EHB Lite, multi-layer EHB and EHB Lite. In EHB Lite, it is a single bus master. In EHB multi-layer, it has multiple active bus master. What is the advantage with multiple active bus master? Each bus masters can initiate a data transfer with the other devices across the same buses. This is an advantage. Next, we'll discuss about the memory part. Hardware, first we discuss about the bus, which is the bus technology. After that, what is the protocol? What are the different versions in that? Next hardware we talk about is memory. Till that, you have any doubts? Till now, whatever we discussed, ಏನಾರ doubt idre keli. Even you can send the doubt in the chat. I'm going to see. ಸರ್ ಏನು ಅರ್ಥ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಮತ್ತೊಂದ್ಸಲಿ ರಿಪೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅಂದ್ರೂ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. I don't have any issues with that. Okay. I assume that you have completely understood or nothing. Okay, I'll continue. Okay, someone has raised the doubt, I think. Okay. Okay, then no problem. Okay, we'll continue. The memory. Memory, memory, if I use the word, it is primary memory or secondary memory. Primary is RAM, secondary is your hard disk. Right? Inside the embedded system, what will be the memory? What is the hierarchy? What is the width? What is the type? What is the price? What is the performance? How much is the power consumption? That we have to discuss about the memory. If we say memory, inside the embedded system, what will be the memory characteristics? Which type of the memory we have to use? What is the width? What is the type? That we have to discuss. If you see the graph here, see there, in the x-axis, that is the memory size is there. In the y-axis, there is a performance or the cost. See, as and when the size increases, the secondary storage, you will get more size. The cost is very less. Performance is also is very less. The cache, the cost is more, performance is also very good. Main memory comes between this secondary storage and the cache. Cache is very fast. It is costlier, but performance is very good. If it is a secondary storage, the cost is less compared to the other memory. Time to access from the secondary storage devices is more, but you will get more space. That is the that you have to understand from that graph. Where exactly the cache will be placed? The cache always it will be placed between the main memory and the core. What is the reason behind placing the cache between the RAM and the processor? Because is you have to speed up the data transfer. If you speed up the data transfer, what you will get? There is a overall increase in the performance that we are going to achieve. But if you use everything a cache, what is the problem? The cost it is going to increase. If you ask me which is the fastest memories, the cache is the fastest memory. Which is the slowest memory? The secondary memory is the slowest memory. Cost wise, cache is the costlier compared to the secondary one. Next, about the width. What will be the size of the memory width? See, it is the number of bit. What we say here, the word width is the memory width is the number of bits the memory returns on each access. From the RAM, if you ask how much data it is going to send, or to the memory RAM, how much data you are going to send, that is the width we are talking about. If it is 16 bit, if you take two things, two RAMs, one is 16 bit, another one is 32 bit. If there are 32 bit ARM instruction, as we all know, the ARM size always the instruction will be 32 bit. If the RAM, if it is of 16 bit, assume that if the RAM, it is a 16 bit wide memory chip. In that case, if you want to store that 32 bit instruction inside the memory, you require two memory fetches. A single instruction, 32 bit instruction, if you want to fetch, if you want to store it into that memory chip, since it is a 16 bit, 2 times you have to fetch. Finally, what we are going to what is the problem? It was obviously effect on the system performance. But compared to the cost, 16 bit memory is less expensive. That is why if it is a 16 bit wide memory chip, if you purchase the 16 bit wide memory chip, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಇರೋ RAM 16 bit memory chip ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಅವಾಗ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು 16 bit instruction ಬರೀಬೇಕು. Even in the ARM, there is a support for 16 bit thumb instruction, which is called as thumb. If you use that, if you write 16 bit thumb instruction, you will achieve better performance. In a single fetch itself, you can load an instruction into the memory. Even you will get the cost will be reduced, you will get the high performance. You can see in the table, see the ARM 32 bit instruction. If you write ARM 32 bit instruction, if you write, if it is a 8 bit memory, 4 cycles are required to instruction to load into the RAM. ನೀವು ARM ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಬರ್ದಿರಾ, ಅದ್ರ ಸೈಜ್ 32 ಬಿಟ್. ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಈಗ ಕನೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿರೋ ಬಸ್ 16 ಬಿಟ್, ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಮೆಮೊರಿಯಿಂದ ಹೊರಗಡೆ ಹೋಗೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಒಳ ಬರೋದು 16 ಬಿಟ್. ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, 32 ಬಿಟ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂದ್ರೆ 2 ಸೈಕಲ್ ಬೇಕು. ಅದೇ 32 ಬಿಟ್ ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಒಂದೇ ಸೈಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಹೋಗಿ RAM ಒಳಗೆ ಕೂತ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ, ಮೆಮೊರಿ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೂರುತ್ತೆ. ದ ಸೇಮ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಥಂಬ್ ARM ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಒಂದು 16 ಬಿಟ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಬರೆಯೋಕ್ಕೂ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ. If it is a 8 bit memory, it requires 2 cycle. If it is a 16 bit memory, 1 cycle. Even it is a 32 bit memory, in the 1 cycle you can load that instruction. What it says is, it is the how much cycles are required to load. The next thing other than the memory width is the type. What is the types of the memory? You already know there are ROM, flash RAM, DRAM, static RAM, and SDRAM. These are the different types. Where exactly you see RAM? RAM is different from RAM. It is read-only memory. ROM is nothing but read-only memory, which is a least flexible memory type. Least flexible means, why means, whatever you store inside the ROM at the production time when they develop it, that is fixed, permanently set. It is you cannot reprogram. Once again, you cannot erase, and you can store once again in the ROM. Whenever you manufacture, you will store something in that. For some specific reason itself, we are going to design the ROMs. Where exactly we use ROM? Can anyone answer quickly? ಯಾರಾದ್ರೂ ಒಬ್ರು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ರಾಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ಏನ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ? Quick, we have running out of time. Shri Gauri, are you there? Shri Gauri, idira? Shri Gauri. Shreyas?
Yes, sir.
Data is stored. Yes, sir. I'm saying that what type of data they are going to store? Which type of data is required, and that is not that data need not to be updated afterwards. ಯಾವ್ದೋ ಒಂದು ಡೇಟಾ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದನ್ನ ಮತ್ತೆ ಎರೇಸ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಅಂತ ನೆಸೆಸಿಟಿನೇ ಇರಲ್ಲ. ಆ ತರ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಅಥವಾ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರೋಗ್ರಾಮ್ ಯಾವುದು?
Sir, BIOS.
Yes, sir. The data which is stored only for read. Yes, that is the answer. Application I'm talking about. Where exactly they use it? The only example is boot code. The answer is there. Whenever you click on the power button, the operating system, before the operating system gets loaded, all the, please everyone, okay, we'll send, now the meeting is going to end now. Once again, after 5 minutes, we'll join. After 5 minutes, we'll join, and once again, we'll continue. Now the meeting is going to end. Thank you. Once again, we'll join in 5 minutes. Yes, sir. Is my voice audible? Can you hear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Hey, this, what is this ARM is all about is the ARM, it is totally follows the RISC architecture. And what RISC says is the instruction size is always fixed. Variable instruction size you cannot write. If you check the size of an instruction, how to check the size of an instruction? 3 things we are going to write. One first part will be instruction, move, divide, sum, jump, or any instructions. Followed by two registers, R1, R2, or some memory location. If you totally check the size of the entire thing, that should be always fixed in the RISC. It can be 32-bit or 64-bit or 16-bit. Everywhere, all the instructions what we write, it should be fixed. That is the RISC architecture, what it says. CISC architecture, it says one instruction you can write it in one size, 32-bit, another instruction in 16-bit, another in 8 variables instruction size you can write. What the ARM falls, ARM microcontroller, which follows RISC architecture, what it says is it supports 32-bit instruction size. There is one more flexibility they have given to write 16-bit instruction size. Any instruction which size is 16-bit. For that, the name they have given is thumb. That's all. Thumb instruction set, which is of 16-bit. When it will be used, why 16-bit is required, why always 32-bit you can write. One example is if the memory in the embedded system, in the memory chip, it is of 16-bit wide. If the memory chip, see this table, then you can understand. If the memory, if it is of 16-bit, you have purchased that memory itself, it is of 16-bit. If you want to send the data to the memory, it can be 16. In order to access, it is 16-bit. In that case, if you use ARM 32-bit instruction, it requires 2 clock cycles to store or to get the access. Instead of that, there is an advantage of writing 16-bit instructions in one cycle. You can store or you can access. That is the advantage with this thumb 16-bit instruction size. Is it clear now? What is the meaning of thumb? What is 16? What is 32-bit? Clear, Aita? It is finally some performance. It is finally a performance. See, both the things what we see here on the screen, both are related to ARM itself. ARM 32-bit, ARM thumb 16-bit itself. It is not different. In the ARM microcontroller, it supports 32-bit and also it supports 16-bit. When you will get the advantage with this 16-bit is if you have a 16-bit memory. When you will get the advantage with the ARM 32-bit, if you have a 32-bit memory. In one cycle, you can complete your task. Everyone, please send your attendance. In the chat, you can send name followed by USN. After that, we'll continue. See, the next thing is ROM. We are talking about the ROM. What is the advantage with this ROM is whenever the system boots, operating system gets loaded into the RAM. Before that, there is a code which is going to run. That is called as boot code or initialization code. That code, it is not going to change. It is fixed. That type of code that will be stored it in the ROM because there is no need of reprogramming it once again. That code knows where exactly operating system is stored in the secondary storage device and where it has to load. It has to load it into the RAM. That piece of code, they are going to write it and they are going to store it in the ROM. That is why there is no need of reprogramming. But it is least flexible. Which is the best one? Flash ROMs. Flash ROMs, you can read as well as you can write. But problem is, it is slow. So that reason we are not, it is not capable of holding the dynamic data because it is slow. Then you cannot call it as a dynamic. Even you can store it after it is going to preserve after the power is off, but it is slow. Which is better than dynamic DRAM? Dynamic random access memory is the most commonly used RAM. It has the lowest cost per megabyte, we are saying, compared to the other types. What we have to do for this DRAM is, since it is dynamic, the storage cells, which will be there inside this transistor, you have to refresh it. You have to give a new electronic charge for every few milliseconds. For this reason, for what we have to do in the background is you have to set up the DRAM controller. There will be a RAM controller will be there that you have to set up. But in the background, you have to do this for DRAM. One more is there, static RAM is there. Static random access memory. Compared to the DRAM, which is faster. In the order only we have written here, ROM is slower, other than that flash ROM, after that DRAM. SRAM is faster compared to the traditional DRAMs, and this doesn't requires the refreshing also. And SRAMs also, it doesn't requires any pause. There will be no delay between the data access. Because of this reason, the cost is high, and this SRAM, they are going to use it to design the caches or any other fast memory. If they want to design, they use this static random access memory, which is faster, which is costlier, which that is why they are going to use it for cache. Cache ಗೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟಾಟಿಕ್ RAM ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ನೆನ್ಪಿಟ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. This static RAM doesn't requires refreshing. One more is there, synchronous dynamic random access memory, which is faster also compared to the conventional memory, which runs at very high clock speed. And also this DRAM, it synchronizes itself with the processor bus. Even you can use this also, SDRAM. Which is famous is this SRAM and DRAM. SRAM for cost, SRAM for caches, and DRAM for other RAMs. Okay, I think it is now 11:40. We'll discuss about this peripherals and interrupt controllers and the embedded system software. We'll discuss this once again in the next class. If everyone has sent the attendance, you can exit. Thank you.